Looks like we're right at 1 o'clock here, so we'll probably get started. Thank you for joining. We had a couple people pop in and out here, so hopefully they join us back in here in a little bit.
There's only 4 people on.
Yeah, there was 2 other people who popped on here, and yes, custom hoodie. All right, so first thing here, we will start with what we're doing with Youth Innovation Lab, give a little bit of background on this concept that we're doing here. So what is REM5? REM5 is really built to bring virtual reality to people. So VR, especially when we started, was really expensive, really tough to operate. There wasn't a lot of people, consumers or businesses using VR. So we really saw that as a chance to be able to bring this technology to more people. We've had about 15,000 people into our site, and then we're doing things like this Youth Innovation Lab, and then Innovation Lab Plus, which is a rental program with some educational content. So still trying to find ways to bring VR to more and more people all the time. And that's really what REM5 is all about, making VR accessible to people and really immersive technologies overall. That's what we'll be talking about a little bit more here today. Youth Innovation Lab is really about being able to bring the youth into this industry. So this is really the future of the industry. You guys are going to be the people who are creating content, using this in education. So we want you to be really at the forefront and learn as much as you can about VR, AR, mixed reality, XR, as we kind of call it. So that's really what this is about, is to show you some unique things that we're doing when maybe we're not open for entertainment. And we'll show you a little bit of that here later today in the medical space. So how does VR technology work? So basically, in this device here, what you're seeing is 2 images. One of them is tilted just a little bit to give you the concept of depth. What VR does is basically takes that and puts it on steroids. So now you're able to create moving objects and build a full digital environment all the way around you. But the same concepts are really the same as they've been for about 100 years. You're just trying to take 2 images and build them in such a way that you're able to basically trick your mind into thinking that you're in a virtual space, or a space that has some depth to it. So there's a few ways to do that: 360 images and 360 videos. So 360 images is just one still image. Video is going to be something that's captured all the way around you, but it's still going to be, it's not going to be quite an immersive environment. So that's what we've talked about, the Google Cardboard or Oculus Go, which are great devices for 360 videos and 360 images. Virtual reality is going to be building that entire environment digitally around you so that you can move around in the environment and interact with it. So if you're doing something like Job Simulator, that's full virtual reality, because it's built the entire environment around you. And as you move, the system knows where you move, and it knows where you're clicking, where you're pointing, and so you can interact with that environment. Mixed reality is really taking virtual reality and reality and mixing them together. So having a hockey stick or a baseball bat that you're using while you're in virtual reality, and having that system understand what that is. So it basically gives you a feel of being in reality while you're building that virtual world around you. Augmented reality then is about taking a digital object and kind of placing it onto reality. So Snapchat is a good example. Snapchat filters are a good example of that. Pokemon Go is a good example of that. You're really taking a picture of the real world and you're just placing something digitally right on top of it. All right, so those are kind of the immersive technologies that we talk about. And then within those technologies, there's good, better, best concepts where the headsets basically can get better, more expensive, and the technology just gets a little bit better. This is a great entry-level device. Going to do some of the same things that you can do with a little bit better device, like an Oculus Go. But not going to be quite as high quality as maybe an HTC Vive or Vive Pro, which is what we have at REM5. So there's really just gradients of quality in all of these devices. All right, and just like PC and mobile, this is really going to change the way we learn, work, play, and socialize. And that's why we're really excited about this technology overall. What we want to talk about today is how these technologies, these mixed reality, augmented reality, virtual reality, are being used in medicine. So there's some really cool things going on in the medical field, and that's really pertinent today with everything that's going on with COVID-19. So wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on in VR and AR, and even how you can experience some of the things that are related to COVID-19 with devices that you might have at home. So first, I want to kind of break this into two sections. And the first thing I want to talk about is how industry, hospitals, teaching hospitals, classrooms are using virtual reality as really as a learning tool and as a great way to teach people how to do things that are going to be applicable in the real world without having to have a sick patient in front of you or something like that. So what I'm going to do here is share that portion of my screen. But what you see here is actually a fire department is able to go into a scenario where they're able to see a victim that's lying on the ground. And what they can do here is they can actually talk to these virtual people to give them instruction. So this is really a test case where you want to have people be able to be calm under pressure when they're faced with a high stress environment like this. They're able to go through this scenario and they can go through it multiple times with the inputs that are in virtual reality, and they can just, this one is really built to verbally give those instructions. So they can just call out, hey, person over there, I need you to start doing chest compressions or something like that. So that's really what this piece of content is doing, is taking a high stress environment, creating a way to go through that virtually so you can get all kinds of different reps in this so that you're not so stressed out when you get into the real life environment. So people who are in ambulances, fire departments are using this kind of concept to basically get practice for the real life job. And you can see these people, the virtual people are basically responding to what the person there is saying. And then you can get some information there about what how the patient is interacting. And then it'll give you basically a scorecard based on how you did in the simulation. So that's one really awesome use case. The next one is one that we've used at REM5. So have you heard of an MRI before? Yeah, so an MRI is really just a digital image of your insides, basically. So what you can do in VR, usually when you take an MRI, you then look at basically pictures of your insides, and you're looking at one picture at a time. What you can do in VR is actually build your body in the full virtual space and actually look at those little slices in VR. So this is a piece of content called Medical Holodeck. What you're looking at right here is actually a scan of somebody's head there. And so we've got some of these scans, and we've had people come and try this out to see if this is something that they can use in the medical field, whether that's for teaching or actually for doctors looking at what their patients are looking like and try to do a diagnosis that way. So there's a lot of really cool things that we can do with this. And then you see that that hand there that's on the left, the controller on the left. You can actually change what the what's showing up in that scan with that hand right there. And you can see as they're moving their hand around, they're able to look at different parts of the brain in this particular scan. So this is a really high-end, really cool use. We know that Mayo is using this in Rochester. And like I said, we've got a copy of this too at REM5. So really, really awesome use case that's going to really help doctors and nurses in the future. Here's another scan of somebody. Looks like their head again in their brain. So you're able to go in there and look at what their brain looks like on the inside, which is a really valuable tool. So, and I was mentioning you can change what the scan is showing. So this is showing different parts of the body and basically filters the scan a little bit differently. So that's another really great use for this. Another one that we really like to show people is called Organon. So this is one that's an anatomy tool. So they've actually built basically the entire body. So your muscles, your nerves, your bones, and you can actually look at that in VR. And then within that, you can actually take out pieces and see what those are called. So the external oblique on the left side, and then if you look to the right there, you've got some descriptions about what those are. You can actually now walk around the body or go inside of it and look at, this person is taking out one of the vertebrae right there. So really interactive tool that you can use in the medical space to learn about what the body is all about, what's going on in there. And then there's even some interaction tools that you can use that they're going to show here in just a second. Their actions. So this one's going to show a pumping heart. And you can actually see that heart pumping there. And you can go inside of it and look at what's going on inside the heart right there. So this is primarily used in schools, medical schools, high schools, and even at hospitals where they're trying to basically teach about the human anatomy, because you can really dive into this a lot better than looking at pictures or even videos that are traditional teaching tools. All right. Any questions about that there? Amir asked, why is doing this in VR better than role playing with real people? So really the biggest thing that VR allows you to do is get a lot more reps and have a lot more realism in those reps. So if you think about something like going through a knee surgery, for example, there's a piece of content out there in VR that you're able to go through a knee surgery. And in VR, you could do that knee surgery over and over and over again. You can make mistakes. You don't have to worry about hurting anybody when you do that. And you can basically get all that right and learn. Basically, we all learn through repetition. So that's really the best way to do that is through virtual reality, learning through that repetition over and over. So that's really a great way, a great use case for virtual reality. It's also able to give you a unique perspective on what is going on. So we looked at medical holodeck. So the tools that are available today in the hospital for MRIs in particular, a lot of times aren't necessarily very interactive or very immersive. With virtual reality, you can actually go inside of that MRI scan and see what you're looking at in a much more detailed way. So that's a really great use for this technology, and why it's better to use this than doing role playing with real people or even like mannequins, which aren't really real anyways. And the first one we've got here is this blue jig. It's called Jig Space. So this blue one right here. And what this is people have built different basically interactions that you can look at here. So there's a whole bunch of things that people have built that you can look at in AR. What I'm going to focus on today here is this coronavirus, since this is a really important topic right now.
You make your own?
Yeah, you can make your own. So I'll show you. I can show you how to do that here in just a second. There's two JigSpace apps. One is the orange one, which is the first one that was up there on my phone. The other one is blue. So you can actually make your own jigs with the other app. And remember, with augmented reality, the system needs to have something to look at and something to basically use as reference points. That's why on this table here, what I've done is I've just put a few pieces of tape around. So that's what it's using as reference points. That's why I get a nice good surface here. So I'm going to place my jig right here. And then you can see here is what a coronavirus looks like. You can go in, kind of zoom in on this, turn it around here. And then what this application allows you to do, it's really a learning application. So if you look at the bottom here, you can see some information about this. Kind of look at it like a slide here. So this is the first slide. And then what it's going to do here is talk a little bit about the coronavirus, the family of viruses. And so if we step back here, so the pink one here is the coronavirus that we're dealing with today. This blue one is one that has been around for a few years now, known as SARS. And then the green one is MERS. So very similar viruses, but you can see they look just a little bit different in this representation here. All right, so how do these get spread? This is typically known as being from animal to human. So that's what they're talking about on this one. And this is actually the virus blown up. And so this is why it's called a coronavirus, because you've got these spirals here in the middle. And if we keep going through this interaction, what the spiral wants to do is actually get into your into the cell, into the basically the genetic material of the cell. And so that's what this picture here is showing. So remember, we've gone from this pink virus all the way to this, and then that's how it multiplies as well. This is how viruses are spread. Cough them onto a table or something like that, and then it goes through how to basically keep from spreading viruses. So this is an application that really uses augmented reality to show content in a really unique way. I'm going to look at another one here. For
what is it called?
It's called Jig. If you look at the top of the, it's just JIG.
And then live, and then space.
Yep, exactly.
I'm gonna get the app.
This is another one that is related to medicine. So we can look at what a heart stent is. So we'll start with the human heart and the arteries around the heart. And what this is going to do is take us through what plaque buildup in a vein looks like, or an artery looks like, and then what a stent looks like when it goes in. And then they blow it up. And then pull it out. So that's what, if you heard of someone having a stent put in, that's a really good representation of what that looks like, and something you can see in augmented reality pretty simply. All right, and then there's a bunch of other applications here that you can look at inside the human ear or the eyeball. If we place this jig here, now we can look inside the eye and see what the inside of the eye looks like. This is just a cross section of the eye. your retina. As that light comes into the eye and where it's collected. So these are really cool AR applications for learning about different medical concepts. And you can see in this library here, there's a lot of different concepts that you can learn about in JIG in particular. How microphones work, how quadcopters work, Mars. So just a really cool tool for learning more and using immersive technology to get a different view. We talked about that unique perspective on things. Well, I mean, these three-dimensional views that you're looking at in augmented reality, whether it's of a coronavirus or of the human eye, those are perspectives that it's really hard to get even on a 2D screen or from a book. All right, and there's one more application I want to show here, and this is an anatomy application. So this one in the bottom left here.
Wait, what is it called?
Just a second. I'll pull up the name in just a second. It's kind of a long name. All right, and this one I don't think I've talked about the merge cube yet, but we're gonna use that today. So this is a cube that really allows you to, it's an augmented reality device. And see if I can turn this. There we go. So here's the cube itself, and then it'll turn into whatever device or whatever object you're trying to look at in this application or merge cube application. So in this one in particular, we're looking at the brain. So you can zoom in on the brain, see different pieces here. There's some labels that you can look at, and then a description. Limbic system, I don't know anything about. Here we go, the heart. So this one's really cool. You can see the arteries and veins going into the heart, and then see what the heart looks like pumping. So a really awesome use for this merge cube. You can actually spin this all the way around, and all you have to do is just be holding this cube here. Okay, here's another view of the heart. Now there are different modes that you can use with this application. So VR mode, that's what we would use the Google Cardboard for, or AR mode even without a cube. So in this one, we could just do the same thing that we just did before. Point the device at a flat surface. I like to put a little bit of tape down to make sure that it knows where it's going. And then you can drop these same things in. And now all I'm doing is just using my finger to rotate this around instead of using the cube itself. Use two fingers to zoom in here or make things a little bit smaller. But a really great view of these concepts. There's the heart again. And the lungs. So you can see all these little veins in the lungs. So this is how air is getting into our system. Or oxygen, rather, is getting into our system. All right, so I'll pull this up. This Anatomy AR is what that one is called. So it's in the bottom left here. It's just got a picture of a brain and an AR on it if you want to download that one. There are a lot of merge cube applications out there. So this is a really cool device. I've got one called Explorer, which has got a bunch of basically all the planets on there. You can turn those around and look at them. Merge Things has a bunch of tools and kind of mini games. Oh, yep. Amir said MergeCube has its own software to create free to download, like Spark AR. So Spark AR is basically a software to create augmented reality applications. So yeah, MergeCube does have an application like that. Yeah, I guess I was just asking Sophie which if you were using the MergeCube software to create content in there, or what you were using. But yeah, that's a great use for AR and for concepts like the MergeCube. Well, thanks everybody for joining today. If you have any questions about about how medicine is being impacted by virtual reality, augmented reality, 360 video, any of these immersive technology, just feel free to send us an email at contact@REM5VR. The other thing is, don't forget about kind of the addition to this innovation lab that we're doing on Thursdays is Innovation Lab Plus, which we've created is a rental program. We've got it includes an Oculus Go, and then content and lesson plans that go along with that. So if you're interested in using VR as a learning tool, some really great content in there, really great concepts. This week we are working on diving into art a little bit more in depth, and then working on diving into space as well, and the relationship between space and time. So it's pretty cool concepts and pretty cool visualization of some of those concepts that can be pretty complicated, but are really fun to explore in VR. Even what it's like to go into a black hole. So that's a pretty cool concept. You can shoot light into a black hole with one of the pieces of content that we're doing today. So yeah, if you have any questions about that, shoot us an email, contact@rem5vr.com, and we'd love to answer those and hear from you. All right, thanks everybody. Bye.